W.L. Bost, interviewed at Asheville, North Carolina, interviewed by Marjorie Jones, age when interviewed 88. My master's name was Jonas Bost. He had a hotel in Newton, North Carolina. My mother and grandmother both belonged to the Bost family. My old master had two large plantations, one about 3 miles from Newton and another 4 miles away. It took a lot of niggers to keep work going on them both. The women folks had to work in the hotel and in the big house in town. Old Mrs., she was a good woman. She never allowed the master to buy or sell any slaves. There never was an overseer on the whole plantation. The oldest colored man always looked after the niggers. We niggers lived better than the niggers on the other plantations. I remember when I was a little boy, about 10 years, the speculators come through Newton with droves of slaves. They always stay at our place. The poor critters nearly froze to death. They always come along on the last of December so that the niggers will be ready for sale on the first day of January. Many the time I see 4 or 5 of them chained together. They never had enough clothes on to keep a cat warm. The woman never wore anything but a thin dress and a petticoat and one underwear. I seen the ice balls hanging on the bottom of their dresses as they ran along just like sheep in a pasture before they are sheared. They never wore any shoes, just run along on the ground, all spewed up with ice. The speculators always rode on horses and drove the poor niggers. When they get cold, they make 'em run till they are warm again. The speculators stayed in the hotel and put the niggers in the quarters just like droves of hogs. All through the night I could hear them moaning and praying. I didn't know the Lord would let people live who were so cruel. The gates were always locked and there was a guard on the outside to shoot anyone who tried to run away. Them slaves looked just like droves of turkey running along in front of them horses. I remember when they put them on the block to sell them, the ones between 18 and 30 always bring the most money. The auctioneer, he stand off at a distance and cry them off as they stand on the block. I can hear his voice as long as I live. If the one they going to sell was a young Negro man, this is what he says. Now, gentlemen and fellow citizens, here is a big black buck Negro. He's stout as a mule, good for any kind of work, and he never gives any trouble. How much are offered for him? And then the slave would commit and the nigger would be sold to the highest bidder. If they put up a young nigger woman, the auctioneer cry out, here's a young nigger wench. How much am I offered for her? The poor thing stand on the block, a shivering and a shaking, nearly froze to death. The poor mothers beg the speculators to sell them with their husbands, but the speculator only take what he wants. So maybe the poor thing never see her husband again. Old massa always see that we get plenty to eat. Of course, it was no fancy rations, just cornbread, milk, fat meat, and lasses. But the Lord knows that was lots more than other poor niggers got. Some of them had such bad masters. Us poor niggers never allowed to learn anything. All the reading they ever hear was when they was carried through the big Bible. The masters say that keep the slaves in their place. They was one nigger boy in Newton who was terrible smart. He learned to read and write. He take other colored children out in the fields and teach them about the Bible, but they forget it before the next Sunday. Then the patty rollers, They keep close watch on the poor niggers so they have no chance to do anything, to go anywhere. They just like policemen, only worser. 'Cause they never let the niggers go anywhere without a pass from his master. If you wasn't in your proper place, when the patty rollers come, they lash you till you was black and blue. The women got 15 lashes and the men 30. That is for just being out without a pass. If the nigger done anything worse, he was taken to the jail and put in the whipping post. They was two holes cut for the arms stretched up in the air and a block to put your feet in. Then they whip you with cowhide whip, and the clothes sure never get any of them licks. I remember how they killed one nigger whipping him with the bullwhip. Many the poor nigger nearly killed with the bullwhip, but this one died. He was a stubborn Negro and didn't do as much work as his master thought he ought to. He'd been lashed lot before, so they take him to the whipping post, and then they strip his clothes off, and then the man stand off and cut him with the whip. His back was cut all the pieces, the cuts about half-inch apart. Then after they whip him, they tie him down and put salt on him. Then after he lie in the sun a while, they whip him again. But when they finish with he was dead. Plenty of the colored women have children by the white man. She know better than to not do what he say. Didn't have much of that until the men from South Carolina come up here and settle and bring slaves. Then they take them very same children what have their own blood and make slaves out of them. If the missus finds out, she raised revolution, but she hardly find out. The white man not going to tell, and the nigger woman were always afraid too. So they just go on hoping that things won't be that way always. I remember how the driver, he was the man who did most of the whipping, used to whip some of the niggers. He would tie their hands together and then put their hands down over their knees, then take a stick and stick it between their hands and knees. Then he take hold of them and beat them first on one side, then on the other. Us niggers never had chance to go to Sunday school and church. The white folks feared for niggers to get any religion and education, but I reckon something inside just told us about God and that there was a better place hereafter. We would sneak off and have prayer meetings. Sometimes the planty rollers catch us and beat us good, but that didn't keep us from trying. I remember one old song we used to sing when we meet down in the woods back of the barn. My mother, she sang and prayed to the Lord to deliver us out of slavery. She always say she thankful she was never sold from her children, and that our master not so mean as some of the others. But the old song, it went something like this. Oh, mother, let's go down, let's go down, let's go down, let's go down. Oh, mother, let's go down, down in the valley to pray. As I went down in the valley to pray, studying about that good old way, who shall wear that starry crown? Good Lord shows me the way. Then the other part was just like that, except it said father instead of mother, and then sister, and then brother. Then they sing sometime. We camp a while in the wilderness, in the wilderness, in the wilderness. We camp a while in the wilderness where the Lord makes me happy. And then I'm going home. I don't remember much about the war. There was no fighting done in Newton. just a skirmish or two. Most of the people get everything just ready to run when the Yankee soldiers come through the town. This was toward the last of the war. Of course, the niggers knew what all the fighting was about, but they didn't dare say anything. The man who owned the slaves was too mad as it was, and if the niggers said anything, they get shot right then and there. The soldiers tell us after the war that we get food, clothes, and wages from our master, else we leave, but they was very few that ever got anything. Our old master say he not gonna pay us anything. Of course his money was no good, but he wouldn't pay us if he had been. The Ku Klux Klan came along. They were terrible, dangerous. They wear long gowns, touch the ground. They ride horses through the town at night, and if they find a Negro that tries to get nervy or have a little bet for himself, they lash him nearly to death and gag him and leave him to do the best he can. Sometimes they put sticks in the top of the tall thing they wear and then put an extra head up there with scary eyes and great big mouth. Then they stick it clear up in the air to scare the poor Negroes to death. They had another thing they called the donkey devil that was just as bad. They take the skin of a donkey and get inside of it and run after the poor Negroes. Them was bad times. Them was bad times. I know folks think the books tell the truth, but they sure don't. Us poor niggers had to take it all. Then after the war was over, we was afraid to move, just like tarpons or turtles after emancipation. Just stick our heads out to see how the land lay. My mammy stayed with Marsh Jonah for about a year after freedom. Then old Solomon Hall made her an offer. Old man Hall was a good man if there ever was one. He freed all of his slaves about 2 years before emancipation and gave each of them so much money when he died, that is, he put that in his will. But when he died, his sons and daughters never give anything to the poor Negroes. My mother went to live with on the place belonging to the nephew of Solomon Hall. All of her 6 children went with her. Mother, she cooked for the white folks, and the children make crop. When the first year was up, us children got first money we had in our lives. My mother certainly was happy. We lived on this place for over 4 years. When I was about 20 years old, I married a girl from West Virginia, but she didn't live but just about a year. I stayed down there for a year or so, and then I met Mamie. We came here and both of us went to work. We worked at the same place. We bought this little piece of ground about 42 years ago. We gave $125 for it. We had to buy the lumber to build the house a little at a time, but finally we got the house done. It's been a good home for us and the children. We have 2 daughters and 1 adopted son. Both of the girls are good cooks. One of them lives in New Jersey and cooks in a big hotel. She and her husband come to see us about once a year. But the adopted boy, he was part white. We took him when he was small and did the best we could by him. He never did like to associate with colored people. I remember one time when he was a small child, I took him to town and the conductor made me put him in the front of the streetcar because he thought I was just caring for him and that he was a white boy. Well, we sent him to school until he finished. Then he joined the Navy. I ain't seen him in several years. The last letter I got from him, he say he ain't spoke to a colored girl since he has been there. This made me mad, so I took his insurance policy and cashed it. I didn't want nothing to do with him if he denied his own color.